Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagini Vyomavad Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. So we were doing the sutra number 17 and 18 we have done, and in the sutra number 18 we were doing, with 15 we said Vijavadhanam, so you have to meditate on that divine Shakti, and then Asanastaha Sukham Hriday Nimajjati, then you are in that ocean from where everything starts, in that particular that foundation truth, that Shakti in which you are sort of not drowned, but you are sort of invested there without any distraction. That also we finished that verse number 16. And then in 17, so matra nirmanam apadayati. Then that particular thing where swasya chaitanyasya sambandhini matra chid rasa asayanata atmangshaha tadrupam. We discussed about water and ice. Then that our own unified consciousness, which is no different from that of Paramashiva Tattva, that manifests as samsara. And when the sadhaka realizes this, then whatever he sees around him, he describes it. That is his creation. If you deeply think about yourself, a lot of us ask this question: why should God create this samsara? Why? What is the point of this creation? It's meaningless. Or if it is meaningful, why there is so much of suffering, so much of pain? Why there is so much of diversity and inequality? These are very challenging theological questions, answers to which a lot of people try to search for, try to find in different theological, different ways in which they are trying to explain them. Many of them do not provide the best scientific answer. They distract our attention, saying this is Ishwara's Leela and all kinds of things. But there is a beautiful twist with the discussion we can give by asking ourselves one question: why do we create a lot of things ourselves? Have we ever asked ourselves? From morning to night, we create a lot of thoughts, and these thought worlds that we create in our minds have no purpose. If we want to understand God's game deeply, we have to look within how it happens. A lot of thoughts, they emerge, they have some influence. If you keep them at a very subjective level, they come and go. But the moment you want to transform them, give them a shape, one idea comes in, you do have an activity. And this particular process of creation is nothing other than reducing your pure consciousness to a mode of entrapment. And if we look at Trika Darshana, this whole thing that we are discussing, it's much easier to understand it. Similarly, you do not cease to yourself, and yet you are trapped in different thoughts and the outcome of those thoughts. You generally do not understand why you are doing it. Sometimes you are doing it consciously. Many times you just do it, like in dreams. Why do we create a certain world, certain situation in which we are victims or we are victorious? And then you have a feeling of good or bad, and then you wake up, the dream comes to an end. You go to a next higher level. Similarly, even our waking state, whatever we are experiencing, and today Sri Aurobindo's Mahaprayana Divasha, he left his body today. We will look at a couple of sentences from his great epic Savitri in the context of this particular sutra, the 19th one. Very beautiful way in which he sort of narrates how we get trapped in limitedness of our consciousness. And that is the same Swa Atma Gopanatmika Krida of Lord Shiva. Our perfect Shiva consciousness becomes Jiva consciousness and becomes Pasu consciousness. This degradation is just like a evolution, involution, whatever you call it. It's a kind of descent, and then you become self-conscious, you have ascent. The moment you become self-conscious, you discard all this, and then you return to yourself. When you become self-unconscious, you become oblivious of yourself, then you are entrapped in a lot of details. Therefore, This whole Srishti is saying so matra nirmanam apadayati. Like water becomes ice. Similarly, same consciousness is becoming many things. And that becomes something becomes sthula, something becomes sukshma. We have already gone into that in great detail. Then follows the verse, which has been interpreted in two different ways. Vidya vinase janma vinashaha. Now, if you say or Vidya avinase janma vinashaha, if Vidya is Shuddha Vidya, Vidya is Yathartha Vidya, Vidya is Para Vidya, then with that Vidya avinase, if that is not distracted, that's not interrupted, janma vinashaha. Janma means mrityu included, because without janma there will be no mrityu. If janma is removed, that means the cause of janma is what? Why do we take birth? As per our theological tradition, birth is an outcome of our papa punyas. And our papa punyas, we are taking a birth, and then when that papa punya, the prarabdha is over, we die. Are we going up? No, we'll have to come back again. That is how they are explaining it. Now, the return is what is possible only if this body is terminated. That is what we call mrityu. One sthula sarira viyoga is mrityu, another sthula sarira sanyoga is called janma. That jivatma, that consciousness remains. That jivatma, which is paramatma, with the upadhi of this limited consciousness, we call it jiva. That sukshma sarira, as we discussed in Viveka Chudamani. And janma mrityu rahita means essentially when that consciousness has become subtle enough, has become transformed enough, all the upadhis are gone, and therefore it is not vulnerable anymore. It's no more vulnerable to be born again. Why? It has destroyed all the karmas. So the sanchita karmas are destroyed with jnana, aporoksha jnana of Brahman. And the agami karmas, aslesha vinasa, that happens. There is vinasa of sanchita karma, and aslesha means slesa rahitatva. There is no association anymore with whatever karma you are doing during this birth, because you have jnana, you have no agency, you don't have any ahankara. So whatever is happening, the bad effects go to people who are harming you, and the good effects go to people who are helping you. That is how sadhus, I mean, if a sadhu dies, what happens to his wealth or ashram, anything? His sevaks take it. Similarly, whatever punya he has done, people who are kind and compassionate and respectful towards the sadhu, they take his punya. And those who have harmed him or tortured him or harassed him, they take his papas. His papas means what? He is not there. So the papas which may have been committed through his body, like he's walking, he's sneezing, some insects die. Maybe he killed mosquitoes because they were attacking him. He used a mosquito, some kind of insecticide, so a lot of insects and mosquitoes died. That papa will go to other people. That is what theology, the explanation in our tradition says. And because the karma has got exhausted, there is no fuel, so the vehicle cannot go any forward. So agami karma aslesha, sanchita karma vinasha. What remains in between? Prarabdha karma. So far, Prarabdha karma is giving results. We will have to hang around even with Atmagyana. The great Atmagyani Purushas and avatars have also undergone certain physical illnesses sometimes. Some of them have been tortured to death, like Odiya Baba or Jesus Christ. They were avatar Purushas. Why was he crucified? I mean, you have all stories, but the simple thing is Prarabdha is easy to understand in our system of things. Now, Vidya avinase janma vinas we understood, but if Vidya, as Varadaraja says, is considered as asuddha Vidya, which is mayatmika, which is veiling in nature. Jnanam bandhaha, that was the second sutra. Chaitanya Mahatma, Jnanam bandhaha. If you extend that second sutra of Sambhavapaya, the first chapter here, that means asuddha Vidya nase janma vinashaha. So far, we have that asuddha vidya means imperfect knowledge, limited knowledge, which is not illuminating, which is not liberating. When we transcend that, Because so far we have that sort of knowledge, which means we have some abhimana, some agency, that I'm pramata, I know I'm going to achieve this. So far, this agency hood is there with us. We have karma. Agency means karma. No agency means no karma. That is what Bhagavan has explained in Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, both the ways we have no contradiction. You can say Vidya Vinase Janma Vinasha means that Asuddha Vidya Vinase Janma Vinasha, that means no Punarjanma, or Suddha Vidya Avinase. You have to add that there was a Sandhi there. Okay, Avagraha. Now, let's imagine you remember the last sutra of the second chapter. I'm just returning it because, again, same thing we are going to read in the next verse. There is a warning sign. This is a very beautiful pedagogical tradition we have. The preceptors, the teachers, will show us a candy saying that if you do this, you're going to get liberation. You will get Atmagyana. You shall not have any trouble anymore. The moment we become a little complacent, the moment we are slightly feeling happy that their long lectures come to an end and our sadhana is very easy to accomplish and complete and move forward, they show us the stick. Carrot is over, they show us the stick, and they show us what? He says, do you know this? If you fall asleep, I'm going to hit you with the stick. Similarly, if you remember, in the last sutra of the second chapter, Saktopaya, Vidya Sanghare Tadutta Swapna Darsanam. If you do not know how to continue your sadhana or vidya, you forget all your sadhana, you are a bright student and you do not do your studies anymore, Tadutta Swapna Darsanam. And again, you will be trapped in this world of reveries and false conceptions. And this happens with us so many times. You have a few friends, you have certain situations in the office, and they trapped you in a certain assignment. You went out of the way beyond the call of your duty and you did that. They didn't reward you, they found faults with you. You were trapped, you cursed yourself, you got angry with yourself, and you decided, henceforth, I'm going to be very careful, I'll do my tasks. And unless it's assigned to me by the CEO or it's decided in the committee room that this is what I have to do, and others have also something which they have assumed, which is assigned to them, I'm not going to take up anything voluntarily. I shall not volunteer anymore. Next time, again, one of your friends, because who had a vacation or who had a certain family event to attend, traps you with his loving words or her loving words, and then, would you help me with this? And you say yes. Same thing. He is not grateful or she is not grateful, but you are definitely blamed, right? The same cycle repeats. And that's what he's saying, Vidya Sanghare Tadutta Swapna Darshan, that these diversities, these imperfect ways in which we perceive the world, which is essentially at a very phenomenal level, appears very meaningful, but is devoid of any ultimate meaning. The ultimate meaning is only to recognize the truth of our existence and our consciousness, which is that our Swarupa is Shiva Swarupa, Shivoham. That ultimately we have to realize, or let's imagine at a very intermediate level, let's imagine we want to realize spiritual transformation because we have had enough of this. This is a repetitive process in which we are repeating ourselves. We find it okay, and people think we are normal. When we feel dissatisfied, when we have doubts, when we have questions in our minds, people think we have midlife crisis. People say that this guy or this lady has some middle life crisis. We need to help her. There is no middle life crisis. This is a Vishada yoga. Bhagavad Gita, without fast chapter, we won't get. Without that Vishada yoga, that is why it's considered the yoga of not meditation, but the yoga of feeling a bit uncomfortable in life. You have a few questions, you are not very happy with yourself. These moments, interestingly, come and go. I remember long back I had seen a Russian movie. I don't know what was the Russian name of it, but the translated English title was like this. I don't know if it's available on the YouTube for free. very old movie. It's called An Unfinished Piece for the Player Piano, in which there is a middle-aged guy. Everything is fine. They're having a family picnic party. And there is suddenly a lot of confusion in which there is that main protagonist who is very depressed and he's shouting, he's saying, I'm 35, I'm 35. Napoleon had conquered Russia. What have I conquered in my life? What have I achieved? He's having that agony. He's having this questioning. That is what is his middle life crisis. The middle life crisis is essentially a sign of spiritual awakening. But when we are on a return path to sadhana, on a return path of self consolidation, self awakening, or reintegration of our spiritual self, we are trying to rebuild the storyline, rebuild our consciousness brick by brick, step by step, sadhana by sadhana. And that is why the Shiva Sutra, they're warning us, should you fail, should you slip again, the process which you have left behind will relapse, and this process will again come to haunt you. That is most important thing. So whenever there is any moment of discomfort or depression or stress, this is actually a very good sign, because there is no spiritual life where this hasn't been experienced. Swamiji used to get depressed very often. A lot of people believe he had manic depression. He had periods of acute depression and then periods of feeling very happy. I mean, that's what this, psychological, a great psychologist, author Sudhir Kakkad says, that he perhaps had manic depression. That is his understanding of it. He's trying to have a pathological view of it, whereas this is actually an essential step or a part, is an integral aspect of spiritual yearning and spiritual journey. There would be moments of stress, and there is a warning here. These moments of stress will come when we consciously or unconsciously, carefully or lack of adequate carefulness, allow our meditative focus on our sadhana to slacken, to weaken, to loosen. Once that happens, the thieves enters through the back door again. Vidya Sangharet Tadutha Swapna Darshanam. We have done that. I'm not repeating it again. Now, we have also done in the first chapter, the fourth sutra, if you remember, that in the fourth sutra, what was the fourth sutra? It was a very important sutra where we had a long discussion. Jnana Dhishthanam Matrika. Jnanam Bandha, we did it. Okay. Yoni Vargaha Kala Sariram, we did verse now, the sutra number 3. And then we said Jnana Dhishthanam Matrika. When we have any understanding of anything, there is this very normal philosophical question they ask over a dinner table among friends. You will sometimes listen to this adult kind of a humorous question which you face. They said, what would have happened to us if there was no language? There will be no reality. If there is no language, what do we talk about? There will be no reality. To be able to talk about reality, you need language. To have language, you need alphabets. And that is a great contribution where a lot of occult meaning is attributed to the alphabets in our spiritual theological tradition. Therefore, we did Jnana Dhishthanam Matrika. What is the foundation of knowledge, which you call imperfect, which is the cause of your bondage? He's saying Matrikas, these Varna Matrikas. Ma Kali is wearing 50 heads, and a lot of people will say it's the demonic lady. If you're especially having a Western friend who looks at that picture, he said, what is this lady pulling her tongue out and looking into the sky? She's half naked, wearing this. My God, this is demonic. This is satanic worship. What is this? Who is she? Why is she looking so fearsome? They have no understanding. This is a very symbolic thing. So, Mother Kali is wearing these 50 heads because these are Varna Matrikas. Each of them is one alphabet. The head symbolizes the ability to speak one alphabet. These are the 50 Varna Matrikas he's wearing. That we have done. I'm not getting into it. Of course, This is again being raised here. Kavargadishu Maheswaradyaha Pasumataraha. Now, just before that, we said Vidya Vinase Janma Vinashaha. We did it, right? So, if in fact Vidya Vinasa happens, means Yathartha Vidya Vinasa happens, or which is Asuddha Vidya Tad Avinase, that Asuddha Vidya you are not being able to terminate. There are two possibilities. Vidya could be Suddha Vidya or Asuddha Vidya. If it is Asuddha Vidya, if you are not being able to surmount, transcend, overcome, go beyond it, what happens? You will be entering into the world of limited understanding, and following limited understanding, you will take steps which are not fulfilling, which are not in tune with the real spiritual aspiration of your soul or what is your Shiva Swarupa. It's in contradiction with it. Therefore, you will never get contentment, you will never get tripti or ananda. So, what would we do? We'll wander in search of meaning. That is what our life is all about. Therefore, he's now explaining the secret. What happens to that sadhaka who falls from that pedestal of staying asanastaha, the person who is staying in that meditative pose, repose. When we come out of that meditative repose, of our focus on that Shiva Shakti, what happens to us? He's saying, be careful. There are these energies. Very interestingly, the same Divine Mother, end of the day, same Divine Mother who is liberated, Bhukti Mukti Pradayini, she herself becomes a deluding force. It's very interesting. Same Mother, you might get angry, and that is what is the problem with a very limited, uninitiated spiritual mind. Spiritual aspiration is there, spiritually inclined mind, but a little innocent. Innocent in the sense naive. And then we get angry. Why is Lord Jagannath doing? So many people are cheating and they are hitting each other. These priests are so corrupt. And Lord Krishna, what is he doing? Why you are watching us? Therefore you are punished. And the Muslim invaders came and they broke your temples. You couldn't do anything. This kind of an uninitiated, the mind which doesn't know how to understand divinity in all its complex games, its manifestations. In order to give us an ability to understand this sutra is given. To my mind, this is a very secretive sutra which is telling you about how these Varnamatrikas engineer our thoughts. And we got to be careful, because why do we mantra sadhana? Same Varnamatrikas, same sound or language. They say, same language you're using language, in the counseling process. Many of you must have already read about it. There's something called NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And in NLP, the whole discussion is around how the way you use some words influences our thoughts, builds our personality, builds our self, and then we are able to achieve new things. There is a process of reaffirmation and rejection of a lot of things and reconstruction of your self-image. There's a very beautiful creative process. Something like that. He's saying, with the same language, you can heal a person, you can hurt a person. Same language, you can strengthen yourself, you can weaken yourself. So we have to understand what is this mystery of language. This mystery of language is being explained here. Remember, this is not outside of the reality we are calling Shiva Shakti reality. There is nothing which is not Shiva. There is nothing where there is no signature of Mahashakti. Everywhere the signature, she is present everywhere. But depending on our aspiration, depending on our way of looking at it, we are going to get the benefit or we are going to incur some losses. Depends on where you are standing. That is the main thing. Where are you standing in this whole wheel of these, the game, the creative game of Lord Shiva and Shakti? So, Kavarga Adishu Maheshwaradyaha Pashumataraha. Word by word, let me explain. Kavarga. So, you have this Ka, Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Ga. cha cha ja janya, cha cha ja janya, ta tha da dhana, ta tha da dhana, pa fa va va ma. These are all vargas. Like ya, ra, la, va. And even if you look at the Maheshwara Sutras, so you have these, there are vargas, sa, sa, sa. All of these are called one vargas. So there are about 8 vargas. So ka vargadishu Maheshwaryadhyaha, Maheshwari Adhyaha, starting with Maheshwari. And then other deities are there. Same Mahashakti will manifest as deities. That means energies with specific purposes and specific functionalities. Same Mahashakti. You're worshipping her as as Durga, as Ma Parvati, as Ma Saraswati. Same divine mother. Mantras are different. Puja paddhatis, ways of propitiation, ways of meditation are different. The results are also different. The one manifests, and that is the secret. How come one divinity appears as many divinities? That is what is being explained. Kavargadishu Maheshwaryadhyaha Pasumataraha. These are the mothers of Pasu. They are mothers of beasts. Who are these beasts? We. Yeah, so we are beasts, we are Shiva Swarupa. No, they are referring to, with the help of these language, these are these Vargas, we do not understand the occult meaning behind these letters, the occult meaning behind language we are using. If we know, then you can use this language. It's like you go to Gopalpur at sea, on sea in Orissa. So you have this Indian Rare Earths Limited, right? IRL. They have the office there because they collect some, what do you call it, radioactive material from what otherwise appears as silicon oxide. There's a sea beach, so you have a lot of sand. But they are doing research because they find some radioactive elements in this sand. So, what is sand for others is radioactive material for the scientists. Similarly, these words and letters, which are basically secular constructs of the mind language, have a lot of occult power for the guy who knows the signs of this language from a spiritual perspective. That is what is being explained here, to keep it very simple. Kavargadishu Maheshwaradhyaha Pasumataraha. So, who is the Pasu here? We don't have a animal body. We are human beings. He's calling you like animals. Why? What are the vrittis that are happening in our minds? And Pashu doesn't mean animal. Pasu means the other of Shiva, the other side of Shiva. And what is that? That consciousness which has got entrapped in limitedness, restrictedness. It does a few things, it has anxieties, it has fears, it was Swatantra. It has become Paratantra, all the time conditioned, dependent on other things, triggered into action, and struck with success and failure, sometimes happy, sometimes sad. This is what is the Pasu Swarupa. It's not Swarupa, but the Pasu Swabhava which appears in us because of an inability to reconnect with our Swarupa. So, we will first look at very quickly a very detailed way Kshemaraja is mentioning. So, we will let's look at all the commentaries are very good. So, we will do one by one. Vedaniya para ya iyam बाह्यर्थ उपाधिरंजनात् विद्या तत्प्रेण हेतुकः इति अत्र उक्तवान् अजः. So Bhagavan is explaining that Vedaniya para ya iyang bahyartha upadhi anjanat. So because of the impurities of this bahyartha upadhi, that pure consciousness will have to be, what is creation end of the day? That Shiva Tattva is becoming many, and how we have already dealt with that creation story here in a very mysterious way. How that happens, we have already discussed this. Shiva is everything. He looks out. First, he has self-consciousness with Vimarsha Shakti. Then his Aham Idam, I and this. This is creation. I and this. And this he tries to treat this, which is part of himself, as if it's an outside object to create, and that is what is called Srishti. So he's saying सर्वात्मक स्वरूपस्य शब्दराशेः कलामयं यद् रूपं पूर्वमादिष्टं पशोः शब्दानुवेदतः प्रत्योत्पादकं सम्यक् तद्वीर्पं प्रकीर्तितं बीजयोनि प्रभेदेन तत्र बीजं शिव स्वयं शक्ति शक्ति ही मायाविदा योनि कादि ख्यान्तष्टवर्गिणी महेश्वरादि अष्टकम तत्र परापर फलप्रदम अधिष्ठाय पशूनां च बाह्यार्थ अवगमे स्थितं मिश्र कर्मा फलाशक्ति जनकम घोर लक्षणम. So I don't want to get into details because this is again repeated in the Kshemaraja Siva Sutra Vimarshani. This is Varadaraja. At the top, Bhatta Kalata is explaining simply Adhistalyo Havanti iti Sheshaha. So these mothers, Kavargadishu, they become Adhishtatri Devatas. All the Vargas have one Adhishtatri Devata. Jnanadhisthana Matraga iti Samanyena Uktam. We have already explained to you that the Matrikas, Varna Matrikas, are the Jnanas Adhishtanam. That is the foundation of knowledge. We have already explained it to you. Okay, that is what he's saying. Idam tu prapta tattvopi pramadyana माहेश्यादिभिः पशुजना अधिष्ठान भूताभिः अपि शब्दानुवेदन द्वारेण मुह्यते इति आशयेन इति विशेषः. We are now explaining to you in great detail. We have mentioned to you Jnana Adhisthana Matrika. In case you have forgotten, please understand you are doing Anavopaya. You are starting at a lower level. But please understand that if you are failing in your sadhana of meditating on the Shiva Swarupa and the Shakti Bijavadhanam, then you will fall to the level and you will be puppet. You will be a puppet in the hands of these matrikas, Varna matrikas. They'll play games with you. Why? It's very simple. We in meditation, we don't listen to anything. When we are sitting in deep meditation, somebody is playing some music, somebody is saying something. Let's imagine you have an hour for meditation and you are at a marriage party. So you have gone to your nephew's or niece's marriage and then you have your prayer time. So you go to your prayer. You go away, you go to a corner, you find they have given you a room and you close the doors and you start meditating. And you are absolutely not affected by anything because mentally you are flushing everything out. And then you are staying within yourself for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever. The moment you're waking from your meditation, in this 50 minutes or 30 minutes or 20 minutes, you are thinking about your Adhishtatri Devata, maybe you are doing some mantra japa. The moment you wake up, or you are writing a paper, let's imagine, in a secular pursuit, you are writing, working on a file, you're doing some task, you're completely lost in it. The moment you wake up from that meditative repose, then the whole sansara awakes within you with the help of words. Because you start narrating. Somebody is standing there, I have to do this. Who are these people? Oh my God, I haven't taken my breakfast. Words. Varnamatrikas are entering to the consciousness. That is what he's mentioning. Maheshadibhihi pasujanadhishtatri bhutavihi sabdanuvedhana dvarena mohyate. So they delude you. The truth you are in, your truth, you're meditating, which was most important, and suddenly that becomes unimportant. And what you value, what you add value to, what you want to connect with is what is actually something doesn't have as much value. It deludes you. And then we are running around. So therefore he's saying, Yadatu Suddha Vidya Swarupam Yasya Nimajjati Vidya Vinase Janma Vinashaha. This is Kshemaraja. Vidya Avinase, his interpretation is. So he's saying, Yadatu Suddha Vidya Swarupam Yasya Nimajjati, drowns. That Suddha Vidya Swarupam, being in that state of meditation, that fails. There is some kind of a seepage or leakage or whatever, it drips. You lose your concentration. What happens? Adhishtatriha bhavanti iti sheshaha. So these Varnamatrikas become your boss. Lord Shiva, you are with him and you are with the Supreme Boss and you are almost like the Supreme Boss. You forget it. Okay? It's like in a big joint family. This is a joke. In a big joint family, imagine not these days, but imagine 1940s, 50s, and then, or maybe 60s and 70s in a big joint family, or there is a marriage function where you have two, three daughter-in-laws, and they have come with their children, and there are so many big bosses in the house. You have the aunts, you have the grandmothers, and everybody, okay? And there is this young daughter-in-law or a daughter who has a child who is about 2.5, 3 years old, very vulnerable. The mother says, "You sleep here, you don't go." Because there's so many cousins and nephews and nieces, they are making a big uproar. They're having some play, some game, something. This boy has come from a town. It's a small rural area, suburban areas where they have assembled because there is some function. Mother says, "You sleep with me. You don't go anywhere. You take rest. This is my room. They have assigned to me. You be here. Don't go anywhere. You will be in problem." This boy doesn't listen to the mother. So this 3-year-old or 4-year-old, he jumps out and goes to play with his cousins. What happens? There's a quarrel. And there is a little mischievous cousin who pushes him and he falls. Then he cries, "Mama, save me." And then mother comes and tells, "What happened? I told you to be here. Again, you got bitten up. Why did you go there? What happened? He pushed me. Didn't I tell you he'll push you?" That is what he's saying, that these Varna Matrikas become your boss because you have abandoned this Maheshwari Shakti. You see, Maheshwari Shakti will come back to you as a Varna Matrika to trouble you. She was Para Shuddha Shakti. You abandon her. Paravak you abandon. Then you become a victim of these Varna Matrikas. That is the beauty of it. When we renounce God, God comes back in the disguise of samsara to trouble us and teach us a lesson. The same divine supreme entity returns to our lives in the form of stress and agony and anxiety and fear, jealousy. That's their manifestation. And the divine teaches us a lesson. Therefore, he's saying, yeah, so now let me look at this. You have this Zaidev Singh book in which the Sanskrit text is given. If you're opening it, then line by line, I'm reading and explaining to you. Yasa Sakti Jagat Dhatuhu, that I consciousness, Bimarsha Shakti of Lord Shiva, I consciousness, Bimarsha Shakti, Jagat Dhatuhu, that is the material cause of this whole universe, that is the creative energy of this whole universe, Kathita Samavaini, that Parashakti, that Vimarsha Shakti is never separate from Lord Shiva, all the time inherent in Lord Shiva, inseparable, inalienable. And then he's saying, Ichhatvam tasya sa yevi sisrikhyo pratipadyate. Ichhatvam. That becomes Ichha Shakti. That Parashakti of Shiva, Bimarsha Shakti, when Lord Shiva looks around, because he got eye consciousness, then he says, okay, then he moves around a little. Then Ichhatvam tasya Shivasya sa devi sisrikhyo pratipadyate. Now Lord Shiva becomes willing to create. Shisruksha, the desire to create. That desire to create, what is the vehicle? What is the energy that he is going to use? That Parashakti, Bimarsha Shakti becomes Ichha Shakti. Bimarsha Shakti, pure Shiva Shakti, it becomes Ichha Shakti. Saikapi satyanekatvam yatha gacchati tatsrunu. Sa eka api, sa Shakti eka eva. There is only one Vimarsha Shakti. She is only one. How she becomes many? Why? How samsara will be created? She is one. How she becomes many? Sati anekatvam yatha gacchati. The way she becomes many, one becomes many. Tat shrunu. Listen to me, I'll explain. Evam etaditi gyayam nanyathati sunishitam gyapayati yagatraya jnana saktir nigadyate. So you see how the Ichha Sakti becomes many. It becomes Jnana Sakti. How? Ichha Sakti becomes Jnana Sakti. How? Through Avidana, Avidheya. So, it's looking around. It will describe, right? So, it will say that, okay, this is an eye drop, or this is some kind of a medicine. I'm using a word. Now, the moment I described it, it is there. It gains its presence because of my description. It starts describing. That is why it's called Jnana Shakti. Jnana Shakti means what? There is a knower and there is a known. There is subject object dichotomy comes into play with Ichha Shakti in a simple way, in a big way with Jnana Shakti. Evam etaditi gyam. This is evam, and etad api, this one, gyam na anyatha. It's not something else. This is a pen. This is not a pencil. Anyatha iti sunishitam. This is kind of a nishchayatmika buddhi with which you describe the world. Jnapayati yagat jagati atra. In this sansara, this same mother force describes that Jnana Shakti express. Jnana Shakti nigaddati. That same Vimarsha Shakti becomes Isha Shakti, now becomes Jnana Shakti. This is how language comes into force. The baby cries. The mother interprets it. The mother doesn't know why the baby cries, but the minimum she does it, okay, holds the baby close to the bosom, tries to breastfeed. Baby is not interested to feed. Baby is not interested. No, it's not interested in milk. What? Checks the diapers. Is it wet? What is troubling my child? The mother is trying to interpret it. The baby is crying. And the mother starts tapping. Maybe it's loneliness. Did it see a dream? The mother is saying. But you see, the mother being able to do all this because the baby cried. There was this sound. And that was the language through which the baby is expressing its some emotion, some demand, some need. Similarly, whenever we have some kind of a volition, you want to do something, you will make use of language. Sometimes you don't know how to express it. Sometimes you have an emotion, you don't even know what is it. So you describe it. And then that is Jnana Shakti comes into picture. So janati, ichhati, yatati, karoti. You have to know something to be able to specifically desire something. Jnapayati jagati atra jnana shakti nigaddati. And then evam bhutam idam vastu bhavatvati yada punaha. And what is Kriya Shakti? How Kriya Shakti comes is explaining. Evam bhutam idam vastu. This particular thing is clay. Bhavatu iti. Let it be the clay, let it become a pot. It is clay. You saw a lump of clay. Let me make it a pot. So that is what is Kriya Shakti. Let it be like this. Aham bahusham prajayeya. Let me be many. Hiranyagarbha wishes to create this whole sansara. I am one. Let me be many. So evam bhutam idam vastu bhavatvati yada punaha jata tadeva tattad vat kurvatyatra kriyochyate. Jata tadeva. Then this whole thing got created. Tattad kurvati atra. And then whatever ichha you have, then you have description, then this is Jnana Shakti, and then you try to wish, let it be like this. You want to transform a reality into another reality. That becomes Kriya Uchyate. That is what is Kriya Shakti. So you got it, that the Vimarsha Shakti first becomes Ichha Shakti, then Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. Arthopadhi Vasat Prapta, Chintamani Iveshwari. You know, this whole creative energy of Lord Shiva is like a Chintamani. Chintamani is like philosopher's stone. Whatever you wish holding that stone, it can transform that reality. God doesn't need to work hard to do anything. His own desire, his wish is like a Chintamani. Whatever he wishes becomes reality. So, Arthopadhi Vasat Prapta. And why he wants Artha Upadhi Vasat? It wants to assume different names and forms. Arthopadhi Vasat Prapta Chintamanihi Iva Ishwari. Now that Ishwari, that Parameshwari is one only. She becomes Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, and then she'll assume some more divine forms. Tatra tavat samaparna matrubhava vividyate. That is how these matrikas, okay, these matrikas emerge because of different names and forms like Kavarga and Chavarga and Tavarga. So there will be one Adhishtatri Devatas. Didhasa Navadha Chaiva Panchasadava Chamalini. In Malini Vijota Tantra, that is mentioned, what is You see, there are two ways of reading the alphabets. One is that Malini Prakriya, that or to kya, and there is another way of saying. Okay, so that is mentioning Dvidhava. Dvidha is what you have. You see, everything is like Dvidha means what? Swara Varna and Vyanjana Varna. You have Swara Varna and then you have Vyanjana Varna. You can divide all alphabets into two. So Navada Chaiva, Navada, you have these Vyanjana Varnas divided into different Vargas, Ashta Vargas, and there is one, last one together, then it becomes Navadha. Navada Chaiva, Panchasadva, or all 50 letters you take. Chamalini. Bija Yonitmaka Vedat Vedat. Bija Yonyatmakat Vedat. As a result of Bija and Yoni. Now there's a beautiful thing. What is Bija and what is Yoni? Yoni is cause, Bija is also cause. What is the difference? Okay, you can say in case of particular fertilization of an egg, you have the egg of the mother, the ovum, that is also a material cause, and the semen of the father, that is also a material cause. So what is the difference between them? He's saying Vija Yoni. So here in Sanskrit, what do you call it? So you call it Retas. Semen is referred to as Retas, seed, some sand, Retas. Right? Similarly, here they are saying Vija. The Swara Varnas are like Vijas. Vyanjana Varnas are like Yonis. Yonis is that mother force. So any word you say, can you say Ka without A? You cannot say. Ka. No, you know what you say. You can write only. You can only imagine. Ka. But you can't even say, because the moment you say something, there is a Swara Varna coming there. So Vija and Yoni together, they become Aksharas. So therefore he's saying, Bijo Yoniyat Makad Vedat Vidha Vijam Swara Mata. So they are together. Usme, in that, Vija is Swara Varnas. Vijas are Swara Varnas. Kadi Vishcha Smrita Yoni. Kadi Vihi. Ka Adi Jasya Saha Kadi. Kadi means so Ka Adi. Ka Kha Ga Ga. Ka is the first letter. First alphabet. So Kadi Vishcha Smrita Yonihi. So amongst them, these are called the Yonis. Navada Varga Bhedataha, and they can be divided into different constellations, different series. These are Nava Vargas. Then he's saying Vijam Atra Shivaha. In the Swara Varnas compared with Shiva, then Bhagavan Vishnu says in Kshemaraja, I am A. Everything is possible because of A. I'm in the beginning and everything. So Aham, we have already discussed that. A and Ha, Aham, Shiva and Shakti. So Swara Varna is Shiva. Bijamatra Shiva Saktir Yonihi iti avidiyate. The Vyanjana Varnas are like that Shakti. Shiva and Shakti, Swara Varna, Vyanjana Varna. Together they create different words. Words create sentences. Vargastaka Vivhedena Maheswaryadi cha Astakam. So you have these 9 Vargas you divide. Among them, Ka to, Sa, here together, you can say there are Asta Vargas. We'll go into that in a little detail. So they can be divided into 8 Vargas, and each of them will have one Adhisati Devata. Prativarna Vibhedena Satardha Kirunojwala. Prativarna, if you remove one Varga, make them one Matrika, one mother force. There are 50 mothers. So Satardha means half of 100, that is 50. Satardha Kirunojwala. So there are some 50 Rudras. Rudranam Vachakatvena Tasankhanam Niveshita. So we have heard about Ekadas Rudras, but here they are talking about 50 Rudras. Iti Sri Malini Vijaya Nirupita Nitya. By following this method of Malini Vijayotara Tantra, Parameshwari Paravak Prasarantri. So the Paravak, you see Para Pashyanti Madhyama Vaikhari, the sound in different ways. Paravak is that state in which there is nothing which is expressed. It's all in that creative, consolidated. It's like the black hole of expression. There is no form, no name. That energy is just there. That is Parashakti. That is the Swatantra Shakti of Parameshwara. That Paravak. So he's saying Paravat Prasharanti, it expands. Icha Jnana Kriya Rupatam Shritva. So it assumes that Vimarsha Shakti, which is Paravak Shakti of Paramashiva, Icha Jnana Kriya Rupatam Ashritva. Shritva. It assumes this power. Bija Yoni Varga Vargadi Rupa. Varga Vargyadi. Varga and Vargi. Bija and Yoni. Bija is the Swaravarna and then this Vyanjana Varna. Varga Vargi. Varga Vargadi Rupa. Shiva Sakti Maheshwaradi. Shiva and Sakti. Bija and Yoni. Then Maheshwari. All the Vargas have their Adhishtatri Devatas. Devis. So the Bachakadi. Bachagadi Kshanta Rupa. So Bacha Ka Adi Kshanta Rupa. Ka starting with Ka ends with Ksha. Ka Ka Ga Ga Ha Ksha. So Kshanta Rupam Matrugatmatam Shritva. This Matrugatmatam Matruga Swarupatam. So assumes the form of being bosses, these mothers. Pasumatra Mataraha Shritva Ashritva Sarva Pramatrishu. In all the nodes, like all of us, limited subjective beings we become. The moment we lose our meditative repose in Paramashiva, we become people with distracted, differentiated, fragmented consciousness. And this distracted or fragmented or differentiated consciousness is not universal. It is specific, tuned to looking at details, X, Y, G, all kinds of things, where that integrative unity becomes invisible. And then we are in a quandary. It's like the baby who loses sight of the mother. And then we are in samsara. That is what he's explaining. Sritva sava pramartishu abhikalpaka savikalpaka tattat sambedana dasasu. What is abhikalpa and savikalpa? Yeah, beautifully explained. Please look at this Lakshman Jui's explanation, what he is trying to explain. Abhikalpaka and Shavikalpaka, Nirvikalpaka and Shavikalpaka. Nirvikalpaka means what you're looking at the sound. In Nyaya, Nirvikalpa, Shavikalpa is different. Nirvikalpa Jnana is when something happens in your mind, you have some impression of it, but you are not describing it. There is no adjective or noun to it. This is a girl, no. Something, tatra kinchid asti, that kind of a thing, that is nirvikalpaka jnana. And then savikalpaka, yeah, she's a girl going to school. Details. Here, similarly, he's saying savikalpaka, nirvikalpaka. That means what? Let's imagine that somebody is crying. Okay? So you hear some noise. You heard some noise. It doesn't make any sense. You heard some noise. A drunkard person is sitting there. He hears some noise. Some girl is crying. It makes no difference to him. He doesn't even understand what it is. Similarly, the yogi, when he is in deep meditation, some people are talking, something is happening. They are completely disconnected, not because they are kind of ignorant or they are apathetic or they have stoic distance from reality, nothing of that sort. They are intimately connected with their pure self, and therefore they don't have any attention sort of wandering, hovering over these little realities around them. Sounds appear, they hear a sentence, but they only hear that words, and that doesn't mean anything to us. Some news is announced. So the mother is making tea for the father. It declares the cricket score. My mother doesn't understand. I mean, I'm talking about old time mothers. She doesn't take interest in this game. Or let's imagine about basketball. Basketball is not very popular in India, so this Indian mother is making tea. Somebody defeated someone. It doesn't make any sense to her. Somebody died or somebody has some problem about some basketball player. But the guy who is following the game, he gets super excited. Now, the ignorant person with these language and everything, we get trapped in the samsara. But the person who is kind of understanding everything and knows the way language sort of pulls us, bewilders us, is not affected. He explains beautifully. See, somebody says, your father is dead. You can listen to the sentence, my father is not well, you will run. So this is what is sabhikalpaka and nirvikalpaka. The words in themselves don't have any meaning. But once you have sabhikalpaka, you connect them in a particular context and what are the realities, what is their role, and blah, blah, blah. They become details and specific, and there is implication for you. And that's how that fact, that information, that sound affects you. Sabhikalpaka tatta samvedana dasasu, in that particular state of experience, antah paramashatma, antah paramashatma, stula shukshma sabda anuvedanam vidadhana. Then you are using different kinds of words, gross and subtle, different kinds of words you're using. Varga vargyadi devatadhishtanadi dvarena. Then you have varga vargi, and then this whole cosmic reality of sounds are being brought into our discussion. How that happens, we might say this is a secular world, they're using language, and this means this, that's how I got angry, and this and that. What they are trying to say is, you do not understand. There are these Ashtavargas and there are these Matrikas. They are the Adhishtatri Devatas are there, Pasumataraha. They bring in their game into play. It is not a secular thing. There is a lot of energy involved. So be careful when you're using your language, understand the mystery behind it. They're talking about the mystery behind the language, and he's saying, as a result of that mystery which is working, as a result of these divinities which are presiding deities of these vargas, what happens? Shmaya harsha bhaya raga dveshadi prapancham prapanchayanti. They create in you shmaya, pride or astonishment, harsha, happiness, bhaya, fear, raga, attachment, dvesha, aversion, adi prapancham, all kinds of manifestation, prapanchayanti, they create. They don't happen on their own. We are now saying that there are these presiding deities who are responsible for creating things in us. Asankuchita Swatantra Chidghana Swarupa. What is our consciousness? Asankuchita, it's unrestricted, unlimited, divine nature. And Swatantra, it's independent. Chidghana is pure consciousness. Chidghana Swarupa Abrumana, that you cover up. You have a piece of diamond, you cover it with cow dung. Then you throw it as cow dung. That is what we do. So he's saying, Abruvana Sankuchita. And then what we become, if we do not understand the mystery of these whole Varnamatrikas and these deities, presiding deities over language, Sankuchita Paratantra. First we become limited, then Paratantra, dependent. Dehadi mayatvam apadayati. Then we are identified, oh my God, I'm sad, this body is like this, these people are troubling me. Dehadi mayatvam apadayati. Who? That particular Banamatrika, that same Shakti, Taduktam. See, Timurud Ghatoipi. There is another thing. He's explaining from another text. Karandra Chiti Madhyastha, Brahmarandra Chiti Madhyastha, Karandra Brahmarandra Chiti Madhyastha, that Parashakti, Brahma Pasarambala, Brahma Pasa avalambikaha Pitheshwarya Mahoghora Mohiyantyo Muhurmuhu. They completely delude you again and again. You see, Bhagavan gives us a chance. Bijavadanam. Meditate on my Parama Shakti. Meditate on my creative energy. You are liberated. We are not interested. Then, okay. Now, play the game with these mothers, which are actually same thing, same divine energy playing out in different forms, and they will trouble you. That is their nature. Choice is ours. Iti purvam api sambaditam jnanadhisthana matrika. We have explained to you that jnana, that imperfect jnana, adhishtanam, the foundation of that are these varna matrikas. Iti samanyana uktam. We had explained to you in very brief. Idam tu prapta tattvopi. Already we have explained to you even then. Pramadyan maheshadivihi pasu jana adhishtatri bhuta vihi api sabdanu vedha dvarena mohyate iti asayena iti visheshaha. So they delude you if you do not know how to stay in that undivided consciousness, and therefore they trouble you. There is a little more details. We have already done it earlier, but if you want, when we meet again on Saturday, we'll go there. Couple of lines I want to read from this famous book, Savitri. What happens when we fall from the divine? What happens? He's mentioning couple of sentences, because Many of these, like one who searches for a bygone self and only meets the corpse of his desire. So just imagine that you are doing, something great or some good experience, you are in deep spiritual state, and then that is lost. You wanted to spiritually enrich yourself, and that opportunity is lost because we lose control of our attention, of our concentration and meditative practices, and then meet the corpse of our desire. You don't even meet that desire again. You see the dead body of that desire because that's an unfulfilled wish, and you meet the corpse of that wish. What a beautiful language. And then there are a couple of such sentences. Then he's saying, when you want to restart your spiritual yearning in your journey, all that was destroyed must be rebuilt. An old experience labored out once more. All can be done if God touches there. But then, we shouldn't feel too depressed that things